Welcome back, everyone, to the World 2018 play-in stage. Yesterday, we kicked things off with some explosive games, and today it is time for Groups A and B to make their first appearance. There we see EDG at Lowell Park in Seoul, as well as a crowd filing in for the second day of action of play-ins here at the World Championship. It'll be a full house once again for very important games. I'm Eva Schokke-Supporter, flanked by Berento Raz Mohammed. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks for asking.
Yeah. Wow, okay.
Did
you enjoy day one?
It was real fun. You know, the only thing, and I know we'll get to it soon enough, would have made it better, is that nation focused me if they took that W. If they had that one win, I know we'll get to it. I'm just sad.
But no, I feel you. I totally agree. We will get to that in a second. First, I also want to talk about some of the other surprises we saw, namely the one in Group D, G-Rex, coming out of the gate swinging. This is the third seed coming out of the LMS. And well, naturally, we think, okay, the Flash Wolves are great, but how are the other teams? Turns out G-Rex is an amazing squad.
Surprisingly good. The two players you have to watch is Empty and Candy. You saw it in Game 2. Incredible combinations. Empty setting it up for him. Surprising player here. I know I said it a few times, but player of the game 2 times in a row for Empty when we were setting the stage that he was the weak link for the squad.
And got a victory over KLG. We saw here also over Gambit, looking like the strongest team in that group. When we look at Group C, we of course were looking at the North American representatives, C9. They started off with a boom versus Kaboom. They beat them quite handily, but in their second game with That Nation Focus Me, you mentioned already, it got dicey.
Yeah, it really got dicey. Early game was excellent for Detonation Focus Me. It looked real good for them. And remember, the Lysandra pick coming out of Licorice was really sketchy. Blabber getting picked off time and time again. Those were the real marks that we were looking for, but the moment QSS got picked up, team fights were looking real good for C9. They made a crucial mistake around Elder Dragon, which meant both Elder Dragon and Barons into the pockets, but one last-ditch effort paid off for Cloud9.
And I think this is where we then have to also credit the rookies and the veterans together, that in those final moments, they kept the oversight, they had that engage, and they, in the end, pulled, or pushed rather, Detonation Focus Me off their nexus. But this is also where I want to give a bit of praise, or a lot of praise rather, to the LGL squad.
Yes.
Not the best results internationally for LGL historically, yet this looks like a different kind of vibe with Detonation Focus Me. They look very determined.
A lot more aggressive too. Early game points, I thought Yutapon was out looking excellent. So while once again, a player we had expectations for not being the best player out of the team, but also excelling. So a lot more eyes going into the next day for him.
Yeah, they're looking good in this group, Detonation Focus Me. Let's pull up the standings. Cloud9, of course, 2-0. At the end of all of that, one game picked up by Detonation Focus Me. On the other side, G-Rex and Gambit picking up the games, yet still without a win, both Kaboom eSports and Chaos Latin Gamers. For me, well, I wasn't going to think that they want to go... I'm losing my words, that they could straightly pick up this group, that they would be number one. I didn't think that. However, from both Kaboom and Chaos Latin Gamers, I expected a bit more, and I'd be wanting to see a bit more tomorrow.
For KLG, the expectations were they were getting better than what we were showing in MSI. MSI, they had that one big moment. We didn't see anything in this last day. So hopefully they can at least get one game looking into the next day. But for Kaboom, 100% we expected much better for this squad. They had good games going up against Detonation Focus Me, but it all counts down to the final moments. If you can get the W, they didn't get it. Yeah,
no wins yet, so they'll have to get their stuff back together. Today they have time to rest, and then tomorrow they're back on the board. C9, of course, can go from strength to strength. They already went 2-0, and a key part of their success was their mid laner, Jensen, and he caught up with Avali after going 2-0.
I'm here with Cloud9's mid laner Jensen after your victory and ending that first day of play-ins 2-0. But I mean, that last game versus Detonation Focus Me was a lot closer than people would have expected or maybe you would have wanted. So what really happened there?
Ooh, a lot of stuff happened. It was a very long game. Honestly, I think we just didn't really know how to play like the team fights properly against them. Like a lot of the fights, we would just get picked off a lot. And then I think we made... Honestly, I'd say our macro was okay, but I think it was just a lot of the fights, we made like some crucial mistakes. So all the fights just felt really awkward early on, and then for us to win the game, they basically had to throw, so that's kind of just what happened.
What are your overall impressions over the other international competition that you've seen play here?
I'd say the wildcard regions seem to be getting better year on year. Like I remember last year, it wasn't that tough for us, but it seems like a lot of the wildcard teams in general have just been improving a lot over time.
And now you are a Worlds veteran with years of experience, but now you have 3 rookies joining your team, and they just finished their first day. So what did you really think of their performance?
I would say it was decent. Some of them were a bit more nervous than others, and I think it kind of showed in the play as well. So I think it's good that we get the extra time in the play-ins to really work on our nerves and getting comfortable here.
Is there any advice that you would like to give them or have given them?
I mean, we've talked about it like briefly, but yeah, I mean, just play as if it's any other match, basically.
There we go. Pretty good advice, I would say. They ran the gauntlet, so they should be able to do well here in the rest of Plains. And hello also once again, where we are now at the desk, and I'm joined by Jake Spawn, Ty Beery. Also, hi.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Are you already nervous to see the Direwolves play, or?
Yeah, I'm pretty nervous about the Direwolves, hitting on what Jensen said, though, is going to be crucial also for the Oceanic representative. They've got 2 rookies. They need to play around that strength, and I think that they have some veterans there to be able to help them out as well.
So let's dive straight into it. Let's look at teams, or groups A and B, rather, a bit more in depth. Now, first up, Group A has a big name, EDG from the LPL, also the Direwolves, as mentioned, and Infinity Gaming from LATAM North. Now, naturally, I want to go to EDG, Edward Gaming. Usually, you would expect this to be a first seed or a second seed coming out of the LPL, but they didn't have their best year, Raz. Why are they in the play-ins?
This is the worst split that they've had, if we're talking about the entire year as well. This is the youngest roster EDG has really fielded, so even though you're looking towards strong players of Haro, iBoy, Ray, if you know those names are coming in through, and it's just about EDG trying to play around to carry topside and seeing if it fits with them. So it was a lot of mixing and matching experimentation. It was a real rough year for them. They had a 6-series losing streak, but they made it count when it came down to the gauntlet.
Yeah, and certainly not the most patch-resilient team we've seen of all time, EDG. They have been knocked around during different metas. They had a very good opening to the year. Coming second, I think they exceeded expectations, fell off in the second split, got back to where people would expect, but they have played with their roster a little bit too much and played with different styles, carry top lanes, can Ray carry? No, he's back on the tanks now, and I think that some of the consistency they found was through early aggression in the jungle position and good tank play from Ray.
Okay, we'll see what they decide to do and who they decide to start later when we get into the match intro, because their first game will be against LLN's Infinity. Now, when it comes to LATAM North, traditionally we've always seen Lion Gaming or Rainbow Seven. Then after they renamed at the international stage, this is the very first time we have a different representative from LATAM North. In this one, Infinity. A lot of young players, a lot of rookies combined with some veterans. What is the main takeaway of this team?
Yeah, and I think that people would remember Rainbow Seven for how well their individual players played. And they were knocked out of this Worlds run by Dash9, who then went on to lose against Infinity. I think that we're going to see some of the same things, however, Raz. Very solid individual mechanical players, and then some good leadership down in the bottom lane.
Yeah, I remember the last time, 2017 in Plains, when the LLN squad, Rainbow Seven, went up against the Team WE. And they got surprised, got shocked by the strong individual players coming out of the mid lane as AD carry. That will not be different. Cotopaco and Renyu specifically having Rookie of the Year in that region. So a lot to look forward to.
Oh, definitely. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the squad, because we've always seen Lion/Rainbow Seven on the international stage. Also, in the match that occurred after the finals of LATAM North and South, Infinity beat Chaos Latin Gamers 3-0 very handily. So I do expect a bit more fight to come out of this squad in these play-ins. We'll see if they can take down the Direwolves, of course. What a story it is. In terms of international success for the OPL representatives, it has never been that amazing. Now, I did have quite the hopes for them coming to Worlds after what I saw at MSI. Thought they could improve, but we have to talk about the elephant in the room, the fact that Schernfire is banned for the first couple of games, and Udisov, a complete rookie, is stepping in.
Yeah, and I think if you're an OPL fan, you do have to be a little bit disappointed in Schern. Since he's been back in the OPL, he's won every title. He's the MVP of the region. He was already suspended once this year for poor behavior in solo queue in Korea. Now this is going to be the second time. And to just juxtapose the junglers, Udisov has not won a competitive series in a pro league match. He got relegated with another team in Tectonic whilst he was on loan. So there is a big difference between these two junglers.
I was talking to Ejim as well, your co-caster and also professional in OPL. He said he's a nice bloke, Udisov, but he is not to the level of OPL junglers. So it's going to be a big question mark what he's going to be able to bring to this squad.
Yeah, honestly, I think that it's just going to be a focus shifting towards either Triple or King. King back in the days was the guy who was taking risk for his squad, and then for this squad anyways, especially in MSI, it's been triple that's been going forward.
Yeah, and to be fair, King said that he wants to be able to step up in these situations. He's the next longest standing member with Shern. He's won all the titles as well. And he said that he likes the fact that he can play weak side. He's a very consistent player, but he picked up Vayne in the grand final. He absolutely popped off. Certainly a carry there for the squad.
A big group for them, a tough group for the Dire Wolves. We'll be able to see what they can do a little bit later today. I also want to go ahead and talk about Group B. There we have Europe's G2 eSports. We have Supermassive from the TCL and Ascension Gaming from Southeast Asia. I'm just going to go ahead and talk about G2 eSports. Now, naturally, a bit like with EDG, you would expect them to come in as a #1 seed or a #2 seed, but they find themselves in play-ins. Of course, they famously lost at the beginning of the year. Sven and Mithy went to TSM. They also lost two-time MVP Trick and their top lane Expect. So new members, Wonder, Jankos, Yarnan, and Wadid, all centered around their superstar mid laner Perks, who did up and down this year. They got to finals, but they had to play through the gauntlet and are now in play-ins.
And the big thing is, too, the upset that we were talking about. EDG making the upset in their own regional gauntlet, making it through. No one expected it. No one expected G2 to come through because Schalke's amazing play in their finals in Madrid. The finals that, G2 was expecting to make it there. So incredibly well done for G2 to make it this far. A lot of focus for me is going to be on the top side. You already mentioned Perks. I think Wonder is going to be incredibly massive in their performance.
Yeah, and once again, I think that we have veteran players that have suffered from inconsistency but came right at the right time of the year. And I think that when you have a look at Jankos's performances at Worlds previously, how well Perks has been able to play internationally, as a European fan, you should have so much faith in this roster to be able to bring it together because that's what veterancy is. And I really do think that this roster now centers around the top side of the map, which is a little bit different for international fans. But Perks has been impressive. And I think that if Wonder gets back to his best, this team can do serious damage throughout the course of the entirety of World.
They can. However, when I was watching the group draw live and I saw Supermassive being drawn into their group, I immediately thought, you know what? That is a formidable opponent because we have to give credit where credit is due for the TCL champion.
Absolutely, and I think that when you think about the TCL at the moment, you think about Supermassive, and when you think about Supermassive, they're kind of following in the footsteps of the Vietnamese lineup that will be able to make that jump. I think that when you look at how well this region has integrated the imports that they've been able to bring over Raz, add that star power, but then also bring up home talent, it really is impressive the synergy that they're able to have together.
That's the big one. Home talent being Fab Fabulous and Stomage that's been in the region for so long and has already had such a prestigious name to them. But also, if you look towards the bottom lane, Zeitnot and Snowflower will be names you'll be hearing throughout the tournament. Zeitnot had an excellent MSI performance, and Snowflower, I think, is just the best player coming in play-ins.
But at the same time, you also then have to probably point towards GBM, who had a very disappointing best of 5 in the MSI play-ins. I think that he can give it to you, but he can also take it away very quickly. Not happy to lose lane gracefully. He actually went out with a pretty big bang.
Absolutely. In their most recent split, they have shifted a bit of their power into putting a bit more resources into GBM, so maybe that will change their approach coming into these games. Also important to note is that for Supermassive is their first appearance at Worlds. We've known to seen them at MSI 3 times, but they never really won the championship that led to Worlds. They are here now, and I hope they make the most of it. The final team in this group is Ascension from Southeast Asia and also champions of the TPL, so of Thailand. We also saw them at MSI, but there's been a couple of roster moves ever since.
Yeah, absolutely. And historically, this team was focused around mid-bottom lane synergy with G4, Lloyd, and Moss. However, now Rich is there. Lloyd has now moved himself into the jungle positioning. And with the emergence of Rocky as one of their star players, playing much more around the top side of Summoner's Rift, which is not something we've historically seen out of the Southeast Asian squads.
Yeah, now playing through top side is going to be incredibly important. Now Lloyd moving from the bottom lane all towards the jungle position, that's been a big shift for him. So we're going to have to see and track if that's actually been working out. But bringing in Nexar from formerly Gambit Gaming's roster, that's going to be insane to see how he actually meshes into the roster because he's been coming as a low econ AD carry.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Less resources allows Rich to get on the map, and Rich is one of their playmakers. So I get excited about this team, but inconsistency has always been the name of the game for them. If they win lanes, they do well. If not, it can be a little bit of a disaster. So they do need to be able to push that one along.
Yeah, they're definitely, for me, an underdog in a group with G2 Esports and Supermassive. So I hope they can surprise us. Let's take a look at the schedule and see where the surprises may come in. Maybe it's in our first game. EDG versus Infinity. As you say, Raz, sometimes they've struggled with the individual class of the LATAM North teams. However, how do you expect them to start this first game?
I expect them to start it strong. I always have them beat a sweat. So like, sure, I'm sweating right now. No, stay away from me. It's not smelling good. I'm just saying right now that
Can't confirm.
EDG. Oh, get out of here!
Kidding, you smell lovely.
Wait a second.
No, you smell lovely.
But I expect EDG to be able to come out strong.
Hey, I'm there with you, though. I'm sweating for G2 versus Supermassive.
There we go.
So here are our predictions. I was flirting with the idea of going for Infinity, but the only upset in the whole day that's been predicted by us, at least, is Supermassive.
Who's that?
Raz.
Is that me?
Explain yourself. What's going on?
I mean, I already talked about Snowflower. I talked about Zeitnot too, and we're having one of the things we walked around was one of the G2's weaknesses throughout this split. It's been around the bottom side. I'm sure Wadid is a great roaming.
So you're calling out Hjarnan.
I'm calling out Hjarnan.
That's easy to do when you talk about G2. Not very original.
And I'm talking about if it was a best of 5 coming through, then I would expect it to be G2 playing very well around Perks.
Yeah.
The issue is, we've seen it during the MSI group stage. GBM, if he gets into that best of 5, he can psych himself out. But group stage is when he came out in surprise. There's always that element of surprise coming through, and I think that Snowflower will set the stage incredibly well to allow GBM to go off.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think Supermassive has a wonderful and a very, very good chance in that matchup. That's our second game of the day, so we'll be tracking that. Also, when you guys at home are watching the games, also make sure that you're earning in-game loot for watching Worlds. It's just as simple as logging in at watch.lolesports.com/rewards. And for more information how to get it all set up, check out the article at lolesports.com. With that, we are stepping away. You can go set up your account, and when we return, we're going to spotlight some of the heroes in groups A and B and break down EDG versus Infinity. Welcome back, everyone, to the World's Countdown, where we are about 9.5 minutes away from, here's one of my colleagues from EU, that's nice to see. That is Lowell Park, of course, and we are 9 minutes away from Infinity versus EDG. And as we count down towards that first game of the day, we're also going to check out some players you need to keep your eyes on in groups A and B. And as we run them down, it'll be Ascension Gaming's Lloyd, it'll be Perks from G2 eSports, then Zeitnot for Supermassive, and iBoy for EDG. So Lloyd first up. From Ascension, we already mentioned the fact that he was an AD carry and a pretty good one at that, and is now in the jungle.
Yeah, used to actually give Oceania teams nightmares when he played on the Bangkok Titans. This is a guy that's been around with G4 for a very long time, I think now 3 years, and has got good synergy. The move was a bit of a surprise just because of how bottom lane focused they were, but with the change, we're able to change up also how the team operates.
Yeah. Clear decision-making going top side for them. So for Lloyd, very naturally supporting Rocky in the top side of the map should be an easy job for him. Hey, follow the Graves. He was a Graves AD carry player bottom lane, and sure, he didn't play too much Graves top side. He's playing a lot of Trundle. I expect him to go towards it.
Perfect. We'll keep an eye on his aggression. The second player I want to look at is G2's Perks. We talked a bit already about how this roster is completely rebuilt. Well, the only guy who is still standing is Perks, the mid laner. He, of course, had some really good performances at Worlds, at MSI. Last year, he's also featured in the Rise video, so that's pretty cool for him. It must mean he has legendary status or is approaching, but there is a lot on his shoulders because we're looking at him to carry this lineup.
Yeah, he has a lot to say. Of course, leader and captain of the lineup. And remember, for Perks, big thing is EU mid. He's always been the name to look for every single time G2 does make it an international stage. He's a very confident player. I think he'll bring it forward.
Yeah, and he had a lot of success at the start of his career, and I think that as he continues to build that legacy around himself, now he is a focal point. Now there's no Sven and Mithy to kind of catch you in that late game. But the impressive thing to me about Perks has been his attitude. You know, he did the breakdown of where he thinks the mids kind of sit. He seems to have grounded himself a little bit, is a little bit more humble, and I think that as his career progresses, this is a good meta for him. He's a big assassin player. It should be in his wheelhouse, and a lot of the map does rotate around the mid lane at the moment.
I agree, and G2, when they did get to Worlds, they always got put in very tough groups as being the first seed. This might be a blessing in disguise, the fact that they get to kind of show what they're worth through the play-ins, and hopefully in a good group they end up in. No bias, though. So then, the next player we want to look at is one of the competitors of Perks in that group, Zeitnot on Supermassive. Now, I think the bottom lane of Supermassive in general, with Snowflower, is a force to be reckoned with, but this guy is just a fantastic AD carry.
Great combination, great individual player. Damage percentage is always important because he's the focal point in the early laning phase. Incredibly aggressive, just always standing forward. Forward percentage has to be high for him. So that's a player that you have to be watching. I know all of Turkey is going to be watching to see if Zeitnot can come through in the international
He
stage.
was great
once
at
again.
MSI.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think that's a big thing, is that MSI, he was able to keep up with the international AD carries, and he's also very good when Snowflower wants to roam. He doesn't die all that much by himself. He's a great team fighter. Overall, he's just got really solid mechanics, great fundamentals. He's one of my players to watch, absolutely. And I think that if he performs well, this team will continue to upset.
Agreed. Now let's also look at this other AD carry that we need to mention, EDG's iBoy. Of course, I have fond memories of interviewing him at Worlds 2017. He's still a very young guy, though, and he has a lot to uphold when it comes to EDG's legacy.
Yeah, one of the people that had to come in and replace the legendary like Pawn Deft, and they're big shoes to fill, but iBoy's done it well since the inception of him into this lineup. He's paired with Mako. He's kind of grown up underneath Mako here, and they play very well around each other.
And remember, a big point, too, is that he didn't get Rookie of the Split when he first came out in 2017 because he came out in the back end. He actually had to make his name on an international stage, and he did so. One of the prime players that actually was overperforming on EDG at that point. So you have to be watching iBoy.
Yeah, EDG's iBoy is someone to watch, and it's only 5 minutes and 30 seconds until they kick off the first game on day 2 versus LLN's Infinity eSports. There's another big thing we need to bring up when it comes to EDG. They're a huge name history. They have a legacy to uphold, and one of the people that has been very important in that legacy over the years is Clearlove. Now, this year, though, it's not always been Clearlove up on the slate for EDG. There's been a lot of Haro, yet they're starting Clearlove today. What's up with that?
So for me, when it comes to usually, I remember Cloud9 coming in yesterday, bringing out their rookies to get them that airtime. For me, Clearlove is coming in as the sub, personally. He needs to prove himself that he's going to be able to come in and perform, because when he gets to an international stage, while he's great domestically, internationally incredibly poorly. So he needs to come out and build up that confidence.
And Raz, he's my favorite player of all time. I've always been a massive fan. I had him in my players to watch in 2016, but he won IPL 5 like 6 years ago, and MSI, and since then hasn't been able to do all that much. He has a billboard outside at the moment, but I don't think he should be the person starting. I think that if you get your team to Worlds, you deserve to have the starting position, and that is what Haro did. Clearlove, inconsistent throughout the entirety of split number 2.
Yeah, and I want to say, shout out to the EDG fan club out there, just a big one, because remember when Ray had his birthday, all across the Super Brand Mall, just giving them the support. So if he needs confidence, they have his back.
Oh, they love him.
But to your point, I agree. Haro actually came in very strong in the gauntlet run. I think that Clearlove has his point of strength of being able to take some of the, shot calling duties away from Mako and make it a lot easier for them. But we'll have to keep a watch out for that.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good point to track. If Clearlove doesn't bring home the bacon here in this first match versus Infinity, there's going to be some thinking to do, and we might see Haro at the rest of the day. Very important developing story for EDG and Clearlove, but as said, they're up against Infinity eSports in the first game of the day, and it might be easy to kind of underestimate a team that comes out of LATAM North when you're going up against such an epic team from the LPL, but I think they've earned their pedigree in international play-in stages in the last couple of years. This is a new team, though. Do they have enough individual talent to upset teams and maybe make it to the rest of the
Oh, they have the individual talent. Like 100% Okoto Paco and Renyu are going to be bringing it for them. Experience isn't there. I wonder if that's going to impact the play, because we've heard nervousness out of the first day that's been coming through and permeating through the new
Arce
players.
is very experienced.
And that's the one we're going to be looking towards. Arce, the former support player from Lion that's been constantly getting that international experience, the commander for the squad, and I think he's going to be cooling them down.
Do you think he's also going to be the guy that kind of initiates a lot of the stuff that this team's going to do on the Rift?
Yes, he's a major Alistar player.
Okay.
Alistar is his birthright. So honestly, like, if he gets Ali, he's good.
All right, so let's see how both these teams win their first game. Then first up, I guess, the favorite in the matchup, EDG. How do they bring it home?
And I think the way EDG win this game is by not losing the game at the start of the game. Historically, when they were upset by INTZ in the group stage, it was because they kept getting invaded topside of Summoner's Rift. Mouse was a weak point. Get yourself a draft where you have a good tank in the top lane, a consistent team fight, get Scout and iBoy to a couple of items, Raz, and just allow them to do their thing.
And I'm just going to look towards Scout and iBoy, because they're phenomenal players, but for Scout, his name was the double-edged sword for the team. He would give you a lot of opportunities. He's a playmaker, but he might end up coming out and losing you a lot of points. I think this has been a good year for him so far at taking it away, so just calm down.
Calm down.
Relax.
Calm
You
down.
don't have to do too much early. Just set the pace, listen to Clearlove, and you're good.
Let's see if that happens. And Infinity, on the other hand, I guess we want them to come out all guns blazing. Of course, they only got here 2 days ago.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing, right? This is a team that is going to be jet lagged. There's a 12-hour time difference, and they got in late due to some visa. But I think that this is where preparation comes in. Even though you come in late, there is still patches that you're able to win. Get something that your team is comfortable around the early game. Get rolling. If you've got a trap card, play it immediately, because if you win this game, you're nearly guaranteed to get out of this group.
They have the focus too. Immediately remember they are a great early game team. For their region anyways, they go towards get first towers, first bloods.
Yep.
I want to see if they can emulate that going up against EDG because that's their win condition.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely huge. EDG wants to get off to a great start and find themselves in the group stage of Worlds, of course, in just a week. And Infinity wants to show that LATAM North is a region to be reckoned with, just a minute away from the first game. So let's get over to our casters with Dracos and Ferius.